Everyone, make sure you hit that accept button. We are recording this class today. And welcome to class. Today we have Joe here to show us some amazing Siser products. And we're also celebrating our 1000th Michael's online class today. So thank you everyone for helping make this program possible. And I'll turn it over to Joe.
All right. Thank you so much, Maddie. Thank you so much to Michael's. And most of all, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to tune into my class. That is right. 1,000 classes with Michael's. That's insane. But you want to hear something even crazier before I start today? So a year ago exactly was my first and Michael's very first Zoom class. And I am beyond honored to be the person that did the very first Michael Zoom class. And here we are a year later, and I am a part of their almost 1,000 classes. So that is amazing. I can't believe that. I have done almost 20, I would say, myself within this last year. Now, I want to also ask for all these amazing people that have been in these Zoom classes, how many have been to a lot of mine or all of them, or how many? Just list that off over in the chat room. So for anyone that's on right now, make sure if you're in the chat that you have that selected to everyone. But I want to hear from you. Let me know. How many of my classes have you been to? Which one was your favorite? And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you all for tuning in, because another thing is this design I have on my shirt is what I did, the very first design I ever did. And there's a little message behind it. And I kind of, again, want to tell a little quick, fun backstory that kind of always makes me happy. Obviously, a year ago, we were all in the middle of this craziness that we're all living. And, you know, we were quarantined in our houses, and I had a wonderful little local girl pop up to my front door, and she had a hand-drawn message for me that she taped on my front door. And this was the picture she drew for me. And I took that photo, she cut it out, taped it onto my door. I took a photo of it, and I drew it in an art software, and I cut it with Siser EasyWeed heat transfer vinyl, and I turned it into my own personal shirt, and always as a reminder to be great. So a year later, I'm still wearing the shirt, and it's still an amazing message. And I want to let you all know that you can also get this artwork, and feel free to rock this same design. Michael's has the SVG for you, so that link is going to be available for you. So please enjoy it. And again, we'll get going. Thank you all so much. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to chime in, and Maddie will cut me off, and we'll hopefully get them answered. I have a huge project for you. Again, for those that have followed me for a long time, I work for Siser North America. I know the ins and outs and everything you need to know about any Siser product. That's what I'm good at. But I know we are all crafters at heart here. And I got to tell you that crafting is, surprisingly, it's not like a forte of mine. I'm good at what I do with the products itself, but doing fun, crafty things like what I'm going to do today is going to be a first time for me. So my point is that if I'm able to do this today, anybody is going to be able to do exactly what I'm doing. So I had amazing help from a colleague I have here at Siser. Anna had helped me out with coming up with an idea for this class. And we're going to be customizing some springboards today. And I'm going to be applying heat transfer vinyl. So Siser EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl, Siser Strip Flock heat transfer vinyl. And I'm also going to be applying our Siser EasyPSV permanent, which EasyPSV is a pressure sensitive vinyl. So I'm going to be doing that all on a wood plaque. Now I'm going to just start from the beginning. So I had to do a couple things to speed up the process here. So this was just a bare wood plaque that obviously already came ready to hang. This is what it looked like. So we had to kind of do a couple preliminary steps to get to this point. And basically what we did is we took this wood plaque, we sanded it down to give a good smooth surface. And then all we did is put a light paint, use some black acrylic paint to coat over this front. That's all we did. And then let it kind of dry for, ideally give yourself about 24 hours. And then after it was dried, you can use Modge Podge. So we lightly coated Modge Podge onto this, which is basically sealing the paint. The reason why we wanted to do this is, again, I'm going to be heat applying EasyPatterns. So Siser EasyPatterns are those pattern heat transfer vinyls you can find at Michael's. And I'm going to be heat applying it onto the wood. Yes, this is totally experimental. Heat transfer vinyl is not ideal for things that are not textiles, but that's what we like to do. We like to break the mold, defy what we tell people to do, and do it for ourselves. So once you have your wood plaque good to go, I have it painted, sealed with the Modge Podge, that's set. I'm going to start with doing the heat application portions first. That, again, if you're mixing EasyPSV, so the pressure sensitive vinyl, with heat transfer vinyl, you want to make sure you do the heat transfer vinyl steps first, because that's heat application. The other ones are just pressure. So you don't want to do it vice versa, because you don't really want to put heat onto the EasyPSV. So we're going to do it kind of backwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, this is an example of Siser EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl that I have cut and weeded. So when you send it over to your vinyl cutter, you're not cutting in reverse. You're going to cut it like you would normally read it. And then what you're going to need is the mask that comes with your EasyPattern roll. So this clear tape that comes with the EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl, this is going to then be a transfer to move it over to your substrate. So make sure you have that as well. So I already have my EasyPattern cut, weeded. The next step we're going to do is peel off the backing of the application mask. And you want to make sure you're working on a smooth, flat surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the application mask onto a hard, flat surface. I know it might be hard to see, but I have the sticky side facing up. And what I'm going to do is roll my EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl down onto the mask, onto the adhesive. I'm now going to take a squeegee, create a bond, then you want to make sure you peel this backing off. So the backing that I peeled off of the EasyPattern is garbage. So now my transfer is good to go. So I have it on my mask, but if I'm not applying it right away, what you want to do is take that paper backing and lay it back down onto the mask. Now I can save this for later. So I just wanted to get my masking portion done with my EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl. I'm also going to be applying some Strip Flock Pro, which is a heat transfer vinyl, onto the ribbon portion that's going to go on my sign. Now, if you haven't used Strip Flock Pro, it is just like our other heat transfer vinyl in regard is this is a product you would mirror when you send it to your vinyl cutter. But what's awesome about Strip Flock Pro is it is a very thick, dense, kind of velvety suede feel. So it adds some awesome dimension to your design. And then also just the feel of it alone, it gives a dimension to all sorts of different substrates, all sorts of different textiles. I know I probably have some embroiderers on this right now, but I always tell people that Strip Flock Pro, when applied, does actually give I know I get yelled at all the time, but it gives kind of a satin stitch effect from afar. So if you add it to the edge of a heat transfer, like if I would have put it at the edge of this heart, it kind of gives a little bit of a satin stitch. Again, it's just a cool way to add some dimension to your design. And it also has an awesome suede feel when it's all applied. And you can layer on it. So it's very versatile. So I have my heat transfer vinyl pieces that I'm using today weeded and ready to go. I am going to be using a home iron. So this is just going to be one, like if you have a Cricut Easy Press, that's completely fine. If you also have one of these awesome Siser heat or craft heat presses, you can use that. I decided not to use the craft heat press because I'm going to be applying on this wood And as you can tell with wood slats, it's not always even. So this is going to be a trick. I mean, this is happening live. This is the first time doing something like this. So we'll see how the results are. But the first thing I'm going to do is apply to my ribbons. So Anna hooked it up already with the ribbons. So if you wanted to buy pre-made ribbons, you can get those pre-made. Anna made these ribbons or created this ribbon. It's already good to go. This is going to be eventually glued onto my plaque, but I'm also going to have the pieces coming off of it, which is where I'm going to put my heat transfer vinyl transfers. So what you need to decide is whatever you're going to put onto the ribbons and which way you want it to go. So I obviously have the Piazzas with 416 Elm Street. And so if you're putting addresses and names, depends on which way you want to put it. I'm going to put the name on the left side, and then I'll do the address on the right side. Do we have any questions so far? Anything going on?
Not too many questions yet. We had a couple of suggestions in chat. Someone recommended a mini iron, or maybe even a flat iron for your hair might work for the ribbons.
It could, absolutely. That is a great recommendation. So if you have the mini irons, you can absolutely do that. I have seen the flat irons. We've done a couple different things. So if you're doing anything, maybe like small bracelets, little things like hair bows, stuff like that, you can absolutely use the, this isn't conducive for a left-handed. All right, so I'm going to go right-handed. I have my iron set to, it's toggled about as high as it goes. You still want to make sure you test it. So if you're going on to something that you're not sure if it's going to work, just test it and see how it reacts. So make sure you're working on a smooth, flat surface. Now, remember, with heat transfer vinyl, you still need to apply pressure. I know this is something that we're not going to be washing, so we don't really have to abide by the full application instructions. Yes, you heard that from me. I am going to be just pressing this down and tacking it because we're not washing it. So if you ever hear anything about proper full application, that is because we're recommending if you're going to be washing this. This is not going to be washed. So, oh, got a little lifting. All right, so that's okay. Just make sure you go back and press a little bit longer in that area. And make sure you are on flat, like a flat, hard surface. So if you have uneven areas, such as maybe the edges of these ribbons might be a little too much, you can always use some kind of pillow, something underneath it to make sure you have the flat, even surface you need in order for the application. But we're good to go on the one side. All right, so we still have to do the other side. Okay, and I'm just using parchment paper for my cover sheet. So you still want to use a cover sheet and make sure you are applying pressure. What's great about Strip Flock, as you can tell, it is a hot peel. So the Strip Flock Pro is a hot peel, so you don't have to wait. If you wanted to go back, cover it back up with parchment paper, and again, go back and press it for a few more seconds if you need to. If you see any kind of lifting, any kind of corners coming up, you still want to make sure they're down. Again, if it's not something that's being washed, but you still want to make sure that it's applied right. So there you go. Quickly have both sides of our ribbon heat applied. Now these we can set aside because we're going to come back to those. And now we're going to work from the actual plaque up to the ribbon. So the first thing I'm going to do, again, the only thing I'm heat applying onto the plaque is the Siser EasyPattern. So this is my heat transfer vinyl. And so you want to make sure that you have that lined up the best you can. Now, it might not be always perfect depending on how you go. And again, you want to try to ideally have as much of the design on the wood plaques as you possibly can get. In some cases, kind of like this, I might be a little crooked, but I want to try to get as much of the easy pattern onto the wood plaque as I can get. I'm going to have some areas where it's not going to fit on the slat, or it's going to be between the slat. That's okay. We'll just go back and press it. But again, we're going to test this out. Now remember, the reason we put the Modge Podge on here is because the heat application, if you didn't have a sealant, it could potentially affect the paint. So the reason we did that was so that when we lift the carrier, hopefully it doesn't rip any of the paint up. But that's the idea of why we kind of sealed it in there. All right, so we're just going to try this out. I'm just going to tack the easy pattern down. Now remember, easy patterns are super thin material. So this is a very thin heat transfer vinyl that does require even pressure if you're going onto a garment. But since we're just applying onto this wood, I'm just going to kind of tack these spots down. Not expecting it's going to be the most beautiful peel, but we'll try it. Yeah. Some of the spots might need a little extra time, so we might have to go for the full duration, and or it might just mean that we need to crank the temperature up on our heat press or on our home iron a little bit more. This is all experimental. That's the fun part about this. So if you wanted to ever use just all easy PSV, if you were using any patterned PSV, that will work as well. We just wanted to try something different using heat transfer vinyl onto this. Some lifting on it. Looks like we're getting uneven pressure in some spots, so it's kind of normal. And even if you peel it off and then go back to it with the cover sheet, that's okay. Again, this is not what it's originally formulated for, so we're just going to go for it.
Joe, we did have one concern in the chat.
Yeah.
Someone was curious if they should be worried about the steam in their iron.
That's a great question. Yep, absolutely. Do not use steam when you're using any heat transfer vinyl when you're applying with a home iron. So again, what we're doing today with the wood is experimental. This is not what the Siser heat transfer vinyl is necessarily made for. It's made for textiles. But when you're using it in any aspect, so whether you're using it for a garment, do not use any of the steam in your home iron. So if you have a home iron that has water in it, ideally just kind of dump the water out when you're doing any kind of application with Siser heat transfer vinyls. But definitely avoid that. That's a great question. Okay, so I just peeled the cover sheet off. Again, it's not like 100% perfect, but now I'm just going to cover it back up and go back and just kind of iron out any of the spots that I saw kind of lift up. This way I don't have to worry about the carrier sheet that I have on there anymore. And this will just kind of even out the surface area that I'm pressing on. And even if you wanted to go back after all this and seal it completely with another layer of Modge Podge to kind of just completely keep it down, that's cool. But as you can tell, once you have this on here, I mean, it's good to go. Like, so this is our first step. And now what I'm going to do is build with EasyPSV on top of it. So I no longer need my heat press, or home iron. Actually, I'm going to eventually need this hot glue gun going. So I'll get that started. All right. So this is ready with all the heat transfer. That heat transfer vinyl side is good to go. Now we're going to move on to the EasyPSV portion of it. Did anyone have questions on that before we move on?
We did have a question of the differences between the HTV and the PSV and why you chose to use the heat transfer first and then move on to pressure.
That's a great question too. As I said in the beginning of this video too, the difference is HTV is heat transfer vinyl. EasyPSV is pressure sensitive vinyl. So pressure sensitive vinyl is just basically sticker vinyl. So ideally, I don't want to subject my EasyPSV to any kind of heat. So the reason I did the heat transfer vinyl first is because it needed that heating element to apply it. So I knocked out the heating application portion. Now all I need to do is basically stick the rest of my stuff with the Siser EasyPSV. That's why I did it in that rotation. Why I'm comboing the two? Because why make things easy? We're trying to have fun and get extra crafty. No, I'm just kidding. Like, the difference too is you can get certain attributes and elements out of heat transfer vinyl that you can't get out of EasyPSV, and vice versa. So it's up to you to decide what you're going for, what kind of overall look, any kind of particular dimensions, stuff like that. So it's completely a preference thing. Great question. All right, so I am going to be moving on to the EasyPSV portion. Now with EasyPSV, you are not sending it to your vinyl cutter in reverse or mirrored. You're going to be cutting it like you would normally read it, kind of like what we did with the EasyPatterns there. And then once you get that cut, it's just like the other ones. We're going to weed it away. I'm going to be using Siser EasyPSV Permanent, which is a good choice for a project like this. A way to tell if it's a permanent is on the backing, there are gray grid lines. If you see mint grid lines, it indicates it's a removable. So I'm going to be using a permanent EasyPSV. I'm working with white here. Again, color options are completely up to you. Now, for those that are used to Siser products, you know our heat transfer vinyl has a kind of a plasticky carrier sheet. Now with our EasyPSV, we have paper backings. So remember, we now have to use an application tape to remove our transfer of EasyPSV off of the paper backing. So this is a piece of Siser application tape. And what's great about the application tape as well is it has grid lines. So if you're like me and you want to make sure you line things up correctly, the grid lines do certainly help. So I'm going to simply find the center and roll across. And now with this, you're going to just take a squeegee, just like we did with the EasyPatterns, create a bond. I just like to make sure that my paper backing is good. As you can see, it lifts right off. I just make sure my cut is good. So I have a couple things I need to still mask here. I'm going to be using a few different EasyPSV permanent colors. Has anyone used any of these EasyPSV colors? If so, feel free to chime in. This looks like it was cut too deep. So you can tell when it cuts too deep because if it lifts up the paper backing, that just means that you got to go back and do You might have to just peel the paper backing off of it. So this is another indicator to make sure, if you can see that, we'll switch just to show you. See how up here I have some of the paper backing back there? It doesn't mean it's ruined. You just want to make sure you get that off before you do your application, because it's not going to allow it to stick. Now, it's very important between all these products that I'm showing you today that you do test cuts on your vinyl cutter. So before you switch to a different material, you want to make sure that you set your vinyl cutter up correctly with the right settings. And a great tool, in case you didn't know this, Siser has an app. Like, we have an app that you can download on your phone. It's just, if you go to your App Store or Google Play and you just look up Siser HTV, we have a free app, and then it has all of our products, everything I'm showing you here, with cut recommendations if you need them. So again, we cut a little too deep on one of them. Sometimes if you peel it right, you can get the paper backing off like that.
Hey, Joe, we had a couple questions about the transfer tape you're using.
Absolutely.
There was a couple of questions. Can you use any type of transfer tape, or is there something specific you need to be using? And then how many times can you reuse a single sheet?
Those are great questions. Now, I have to stress, though, that you have to be cautious as to which kind of mask you're using. Now, I'm using our application tape that is made for the EasyPSV. Now, this application tape is made for pressure-sensitive vinyl. Now, I showed you masking the heat transfer vinyl there with our Easy pattern. You want to make sure you're using the correct mask between the two different product types, because one is made for heat transfer vinyl and one is made for decal vinyl. Now, if you know the difference between the two and you have a different kind of application tape for decal vinyl, you can use any decal vinyl application tape. That's okay. So if you have other application tape that you use for your decal vinyl, you can go ahead and use that. Just make sure you're not using it for heat transfer vinyl. So we cut really deep into this one. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. I hope that cleared up some of it.
Yes, and I'm putting links to the products that Joe's using in the chat. So if you have any questions on those, you can type those in chat and I'll help you there.
Perfect. Yeah, like I'm showing you here, I kind of had a couple spots that ended up cutting a little too deep, but again, it's not the end of it. You just have to go back and kind of pick off some of the paper backing if you see it on the back of the adhesive side. Because again, if you're blocking the adhesive side, it's obviously not going to stick. Do we have anyone in there that has used the EasyPSV before?
We had someone say they use their PSV on some cups. Or they use the permanent for cups. And someone was asking about which type they should use if they were making a car window decal.
Car window decals are totally optional. I notice a lot of people that use permanent on the window decals, which is probably the better option, because again, you want to make sure you use a stronger adhesive if you really want it to stick around, but you also have to remember that it really sticks around. So if you have a, you know, a lease or something and you have to make sure that you have to get all your stickers off or something, that's one thing. But a lot of people use permanent mostly for window decals. We also have a product that Michaels carries called Etch, and it's a etch glass effect, but it is a decal vinyl that you cut on your vinyl cutter. And it's one of my personal favorites because it actually looks like etch glass and you don't have to deal with like any kind of etching creams and any of that problem. And I use Etch a lot on windows because it looks probably the coolest. But it's a total preference thing. So sorry, that took a little bit extra time just to take off that backing. I have one more thing I have to mask. I'm sorry, we'll cruise right through this. And I'm going to full disclosure to you guys too. This is another thing that's going to be like a game changer thing from my experience in today's class. And I know I'll probably get some backlash from people, but I've never used a hot glue gun. So this could end very dramatically. I'm not sure. May have gone too deep on this. All right, so remember, these are permanent adhesives too. So that's another thing to just like watch on how deep you cut into this, because the permanent adhesive backing will actually stick to it. Didn't want to make it super easy for me on this one.
Joe, we had a few people who were interested in the designs that you're using, as well as the whale on the t-shirt behind you.
Yeah, well, we will actually have the design I'm using today for this class available. Michaels will have that artwork for you. The whale design was actually done internally. I'm not sure where that design is currently, but this was done for a project for our EasyPattern. So like what I did on the sign already with the heat transfer vinyl, that is an example of the patterned EasyPattern heat transfer vinyl that's going directly onto a garment. Pretty cool though, right?
It looks like we have Anna dropping the links to those designs in the chat right
Yes, Anna in the house. She did this design as well. Okay. So if you have a little bit of this paper backing, again, you just want to be careful. Another thing that happens that could have happened here, because we cut these a little bit ago, if you stack anything on top of it, remember this is pressure sensitive vinyl. So if you stack anything over something that's already cut, it's going to cause the adhesive to start activating by the pressure of whatever's on top of it. So make sure when you do any pre-cuts, you don't put anything directly on top of it. That might alleviate, but most importantly, you want to make sure you're not cutting too deep. That's really where a lot of this kind of comes into play. And I guess this is a prime example to just show you, like, everyone deals with this stuff because if you don't take the time to adjust your vinyl cutter before you cut it, you're going to deal with cutting into the paper. Okay. Last piece, I promise. All right, here we go. Cool, we're there. Is everyone excited? We're finally getting to the spot where I'm going to apply the EasyPSV. All right, so heat transfer done. All of our EasyPSV masked, I promise. Now it is simply take your EasyPSV transfers and lay them down onto your wood sign. So this was made, we can see that? Okay, perfect. This was made to give a drop shadow of the easy pattern. So I hope this kind of shows the full circle of what we went for with showing the easy pattern heat transfer vinyl and using our white permanent EasyPSV. Now, once you have that, oh, and I know that someone just asked that and I didn't answer the question. Can you reuse the application tape? Yes, you can. You just want to make sure that, I'm sorry, let me do this. Okay. You can absolutely still use the application tape. The more you use this, though, the more you subject that adhesive side, the weaker it's going to get. So I ideally don't recommend using this more than twice, but you can. And just save the paper backing. And now you can use this for another EasyPSV decal. Okay. So next layer is going to encompass some of my EasyPSV down at the bottom that goes over my easy pattern heat transfer vinyl. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything going on?
We were having a discussion about the Mod Podge in chat, and
Okay.
Emily was thinking, can you use the outdoor Mod Podge on top of both the EasyPSV and the heat transfer?
Absolutely. So if you wanted to seal that completely when all is said and done, you can do that. And it might be ideal to do that when all, you know, after everything is complete, because again, you might still have lifting of the easy pattern or the heat transfer vinyl, and if you really want to lock it down and layer it completely, putting a coating over it would probably save it, especially when you're subjecting it outside to the elements and stuff like that. So,
and then when we are also discussing placing the different vinyls on top of raw wood compared to a sealed wood and how your results might differ between those two.
that is going to be completely that you're going to really have to test out, because those results might vary on the type of paint that's used. The raw wood might be completely fine. It just depends, because some people don't want to use the raw wood, but if you do, it's a complete even canvas. Another trick too, if you have any problems where you're noticing like the EasyPSV is not sticking right away when you peel it, sometimes you have to place it down onto that substrate and kind of walk away. And you want to let it set for like 45 minutes to an hour. And that's going to allow the adhesive, because remember, these are permanent adhesives. I know they were looking like they lifted up, but once they're down and the adhesive starts activating onto that surface, it will grip to it. So you just have to know that maybe if it's not working right away, you can come back to it and then go and take the carrier off. Okay, great questions. Now I have my last piece. I guess I have some casualties there because they didn't actually grip onto. Some of them fell right in between the spots, so that's okay. I mean, if you wanted to go back and hand place them, you can, but this works out. All right, so it still works out. It just misses, like as you saw, some of the spots where in between I lost a couple there and there, but it still works. All right, so this is the full application with the EasyPSV and the heat transfer vinyl on it. So now the next step is just gonna finish it off with the bow. And I'm gonna do this, I promise you it's gonna work. And I'm gonna use, for the very first time, a glue gun. Wish me luck. Okay, so I have my bow. What I'm gonna try to do is go backwards with it. So I'm gonna actually hot glue gun the name and the address down first.
You can do it, Joe. We're all rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I don't have much slack, so I'm going to have to bring it over here. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to kind of juice up the area with glue here to really make it stick. I don't think it matters which side you put down first. I was also told that you don't need to really go frugal on it. So that's where I just need to be better at that. Okay. First part's done. Now I'm going to glue the backing of the pre-made bow . Now there's a little tie as well if you want to tie it around the back. I think I messed that part up already, but it's all good. Oh, come on now. It's not done, but come on now.
It looks great.
How about that? All right. I have the last little piece that I was told I need to add. And it's the awesome little floral flowers that can be fit inside the ribbon. So I was told I need to go heavy on the glue onto the stems. Everything I'm showing you down to the floral design here is all at Michael's. I'm going to try to figure out the best way to do this. I was told to just place it behind. Hot glue gun for life. This is a cool tool. All right. All right. Hold that for a sec. All right. I'm so proud, everyone. I just did this. All right. How cool is that? Now, you could also tie these back if you wanted to, hot glue gun, but it obviously goes the entire way. And this has a little bit of a way to manipulate the shape of it if you want inside the ribbon. So if you want to be able to curl these and maneuver them however you want, you could obviously, again, tie them to the backside or hot glue them to the backside if you want to. This already has the hanging to it, but if you wanted to tie the ribbon back, we added the tinsel into it to be able to kind of tie that to the back. But let me know what you think. Again, this was a first for me, full disclosure. I've never done this before. I was dared, and now I'm here to tell you that if I can do this, you can all absolutely do this. So I'm really proud of this. This is another prime example of a fun little project that was done. Same kind of concept, same way, but just kind of had the Easter feel at the bottom. But spring is here. And I know sign making is such a popular thing. So this was a very first for me. And I can't thank you all enough for being a part of the very first one for me. And so does anyone have any questions on this?
We have a lot of happy comments Tanya, Roz, Kelly, Nicole, Hannah, everyone's saying good job, Joe. It's looking good.
Thank you so much.
Knocked it out of the park.
Much appreciated. Again, thank you to Anna that hooked this up and the awesome idea here. We have many more coming up too, so you guys be ready. Again, I'm having her challenge me because I want this to be a new segment to where it gets me out of my comfort zone. So hopefully it inspires you to get out of your comfort zone and try something that maybe you haven't done before or you've been apprehensive to do. And I'm here to show you that if I can do this, I promise you, you can do this. I know that maybe the steps seemed a little longer. You could speed them up. You could do whatever you want. That's the best part about all of this. Between Siser products and all these wonderful crafty projects you can get at Michael's stores. So please make sure you share them with us when you do these projects, because that inspires us to keep going. But yeah, if no one has any last minute questions, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that tuned in today. And please, again, Michael's has the whole list of everything I used in this video and links to it. So if you're trying to get your hands on this stuff today, you can go to your local Michael's store. Maddie's going to have some links for you. We have the artwork in there. Also, again, we're going to have the artwork for this. So I would love to see the projects of you be great design on your next garment with some Siser heat transfer vinyl. And feel free to share it with us over on our social medias if you want to. We got definitely our Facebook, Instagram, our Facebook group. Feel free to find us. We just love to chat with everybody and kind of see what they do with Siser products, as well as all the stuff you do with Michael's stuff. So thank you all so much. I hope you had a great video, or a good lesson, I should say. And thank you, Maddie and Michael, so much for having me again. I'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, everyone.